Okay. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to everyone. So, welcome to Technology Webinar Series brought to you by Singularity Aerotech Asia. And my name is Afif bin Badrul Hisham. I am the Head of Business Development at Singularity Aerotech Asia, and I will be the moderator of today's webinar. So, all of us in SAT Asia, we are very thrilled to get this webinar series started and hope that with the discussions that we are going to have and all the experts' inputs that we're going to have, we will come out of this COVID-19 pandemic wiser and more well informed in terms of what technology there is out there and how this technology can actually help us in this new normal. So for the first edition of our webinar, we will be talking about COVID-19 and IoT. Where do we go from here? And as all of us are aware, we are in the midst of an unprecedented global event that is a big shift in how we are doing things. And bigger shifts might actually come in the future as we actually recover from this global event. So while a lot has been discussed about technologies used to combat COVID-19 currently, we believe that what is equally important for us to actually talk, if not more important, is actually about what the future actually holds. So what kind of technologies are we going to see in the future? What kind of disruptions that will caused by this COVID-19 in terms of the technological adoption, technological advancement, the way of new ways of doing things, new ways of dealing with things with technology. So these are the kind of questions that we are trying to answer today in our webinar session. And we are very lucky to have in our attendance three distinguished speakers to shed some light into these questions about COVID-19 and IoT. And it is my honor to introduce our speakers for today. We start with the first panelist, Dr. Noor Azmi Alias, who is the Senior Vice President
Hello.
Research in Collaborative Research and Engineering Science and Technology Center. Hello, Dr. Azmi. So Dr. Azmi has
Hello.
been in the technical or technology scene for more than 25 years now. Among other things, he was senior engineering manager in Motorola, as well as the chief of staff for the engineering design center at Motorola. And quite interestingly, he is also listed as a master cheese maker, right, in his profile. And I am quite interested to learn what that is. Right. So we hope that he will actually talk a little bit about that in our session after this. Right. So thank you very much, Dr. Azmi, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Arif.
And our second speaker today is Mr. Vix Kanagasingam, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Esperanti IoT. So Esperanti is our strategic partner, and they are the sole operator of Sigfox Network, which is the dedicated IoT network in Malaysia with a coverage of almost 95% of population in the Peninsular Malaysia. And again, like Dr. Azmi, Vix has been around in the technology scene for more than 25 years. He was also previously in Motorola and worked on other companies as well. He also started his own company, and now he is the man who's in charge of actually bringing IoT into Malaysia, leveraging on the low-powered wide area network IoT. So thank you very much, Vix, for being here today. And last but not least, our final panelist is none other than my own boss, the Chief Executive Officer of Singularity Aerotech Asia, Mr. Hafiz Hassan. So Hafiz started his career as an aerospace engineer, and now he is the co-founder and chief executive of a company that not only provide engineering services to global aerospace companies, but also to champion technology that will enable the fourth industrial revolution, such as IoT and big data analytics. So I think we have a list of speakers today that will be able to actually talk more about what technology are we going to see, being adopted or accelerated after this COVID-19 pandemic. So before we go further with the question that I will ask our panelists, I would like to just give a brief introduction or brief format of our webinar. We will have two rounds of questions being asked to all the speakers, and the speakers will spend maybe about 5 or 6 minutes to answer those questions. And after all six questions are answered, we will open the floor for the viewers to actually ask us questions or ask the panelists any question that they want to ask. And the way you can ask these questions are by typing the comments in the comment section of the YouTube channel that you are viewing now. Or alternatively, you can also email us at hello@singularityAerotech.asia. and we will select the questions. I mean, I'm not sure. We'll look at the time. If time permits, we'll try to answer all the questions. But if not, we will actually collate these questions, and maybe we can do something about those questions later. And we welcome all the questions and even suggestions or any opinions on what we are discussing today. And I will share that with our speakers today. So without further ado, I would like to go to our first question, and this is for Dr. Norani. So like I mentioned just now, COVID-19 pandemic has put the entire world in an unprecedented predicament in the modern era. So one of the amazing observations that I have made, and I'm sure that most of the people are actually making the same observation, that is the uptake of technology has been accelerated. So if you see, for example, we have the Combat, which is the mobile, coronavirus detection kit that was actually developed from concept all the way up to prototyping and all the way up to sending the prototype to the hospitals in weeks. So these are, some of the things that have never happened before, right? And we are seeing right
Yep.
now. Even on the business level, we see small and medium enterprises, they are now using Microsoft Teams, all the collaborative tools, where, if you look at them 2 or 3 months ago, they are not so keen on actually embracing all this digital transformation. So we are seeing accelerated uptake of technology. So the question is, Doctor,
Yep.
do you think that this trend will actually sustain, right? And what does it mean to our technology development in Malaysia, especially when we talk about IoT technology adoption?
Thank you, Afif, and cheers and assalamualaikum to all participating of the panels, panelists, and all the participants and listeners. Um, that's a great question. I think in terms of what does COVID-19 brings to us, and what does it do in terms of accelerating adoption of technology, uh, you know changing the way things have been done. I think that's the probably the most things that we see nowadays. Not because it's COVID-19, it has its own challenges, by itself, but the fact that it's a pandemic, and we don't know how to prevent from getting infected, how to actually even transmission, how do you see it's going from one person to another person, from body to body and whatnot. Still a lot of studies been shared, and even the amount of scientific study being shared is at accelerating rate, right? um, because of limitation of MCO, I think this, and I always like to quote this, and even from my days in Motorola, where a lot of creativity happen when you are given a bit of a limitation, and even some latest study and courses that I've taken is, let's start thinking out of the box, thinking inside the box. What if you are given a box and you have limitation, you cannot get out from the box, which is true now because we are inside the house, isn't it? We are literally inside a box, and you cannot get out from the house, but you have to deliver something, right? So this is what happened, I think, with some of the accelerated, going from not being there, and a lot of work being done through homes, and but you're still able to manage to deliver from point A to point B, getting your idea across, with multiple groups of people you probably never heard before, you never meet before this, COVID-19 happened. You made that connection, and based on just trust, said, okay, let's go and work together about making a solution. Um, you're right. I think the adoption of just the simple part is first thing before I get anything done, communication, right? You over there at your homes, and Hafiz at your house, and also Vic at your house, and myself, we're able to connect now because of this webinar, because of these video conferences and whatnot. I just saw the numbers today. The rate of usage of growth of usage of this kind of communication technology, 500 percent increase over this period of a month and a half or 2 months, whatever. Never seen before. And you're right. People have not used this kind of tools before, are not using it because they must, right? There's no other way, or not using it. That means that they are not connected, right? Even I'm pretty sure mother and children that are, the kids are at uni now, the least they have to use, WhatsApp, video conference. The mom need to see the face of the kid, right? And this is where first the usage of the technology is going to get accelerated by five folds, if not tenfolds, right? Um, and then the ability to using online technology, online platform in terms of designing, right? I'm talking about solving the just the COVID-19 problem, supply of a face shield, face mask. Now I'm talking about N95 face masks are shortage. How do you enable design that will be as good as N95 that is going to be accepted by NIOSH? So you have to rely on, let's see what somebody have done. Don't start from scratch, right? So this is where you're leveraging the knowledge of open source, and maybe even somebody have not done any kind of 3D design before. You can just quickly pick up 3D design. Everybody offering for free. People that has this technology in terms of teaching how to do 3D CAD design. You can pick up very quickly, learning on the on the fly, if you wish, and then make something out of it, right? Or take something that somebody has and then improve further. And this is the acceleration in terms of technology about designing and to the requirement, right? And it's not just that, in terms of how do you quickly test,
Maybe even somebody
right?
have not done
And you have to
any kind of
produce and
3D
has to be
design
3D
before. You can
printed.
just
So
quickly pick
sometimes
up
you
3D
don't have
design.
the 3D
Everybody
printer
offer
offering for
you have the
free.
design ideas, but you don't have 3D
People,
printers.
you have to connect to somebody who has the 3D printers, maybe
CAD design.
one
You can pick
town
up very
away from
quickly,
from from
learning
your
on the
house, and then he has to
on the
print it,
fly,
and somebody
if
has to
you wish,
take that 3D
and then
printed
make
version to
something
be
out of it,
tested
right?
by
Or
the
take
to say,
something
oh,
that
this is the
somebody has and
design
then
that
improve
meet my
further.
requirement,
And this
right?
is the
This is a
acceleration
design
in
that
terms of
does not meet my requirement. You
technology
have to
about
go to do something like
designing
this. That's what
to
happened
the requirement,
when we
right?
first started,
And it's not just that,
building
in terms
some of
of
this
how do you quickly
DIY
test. Maybe
of
even
face
somebody have
shield,
not done any
and
any kind
versus
of
the 3D
3D design
printed,
before. You
and
can just quickly pick up 3D design.
the print,
Everybody
the guy
offer
who
you have the
does the
design ideas,
printing, they
but you
just
don't
say
have to
I
do it.
print and I deliver,
You have to
right?
connect to
And
somebody
some got
who has
rejected,
the
some got
3D printers,
accepted,
you
but this is where
CAD design.
things can be done
One
in a very
town
accelerated
away
way in terms
from
of
your house,
can you actually use
and then he has to
technology
print it,
to get
and
the
somebody has to take
acceptance
that 3D
of your
printed version to be
design by
tested
the
by
doctors, not having to
say,
send it first
oh, this is the
and
design
get
that
rejected.
meet my requirement,
And
right?
that's
This is
something
the
that can be
design that does not meet my requirement. You have to go to do
improved in
something
terms
like
of
that. That's what
the
happened
whole process
when we
of
first started,
idea designing
building some of this
and acceptance,
DIY
and then maybe
face shield,
printing for the final
versus the
validation
3D
before
printed, and
the delivery, right?
the print, the
and
guy
and
who
and
does the
all this
printing, they just say I print and I
happening at
deliver,
a
right?
very
And some got rejected,
highly
some got accepted.
I
But
guess
this is where
growth rate. If you want to
things
use
can be done at a very
that
accelerated
kind
way
of
in terms of
notion, right?
can you actually use technology
It's
to
all
get the
because you've been
acceptance
pressured,
of your design
because you are
by the
put in a
doctors, not
box
having to send
and
first
you have
and
no way
get
to get out of the
rejected.
box, but you have to
And if
deliver
that's something
something,
that can
right?
be
So you have to connect from, it's like,
improved in terms of
and I think
the
all of us used
whole
to play
process
that
of
soccer,
idea
a
designing
box where
and
you make
acceptance,
this
and
a
then
triangle and
maybe
push it.
printing for the
So you have to
final
push from one
validation
person,
before
and your the particular
delivery,
box
right?
cannot move.
And all this
Your players cannot move. You have to stay
happening
within
at a
that box,
very
and you have to push that,
highly
the ball that you make
I guess
from,
growth rate.
you
If you
take a
want to use
piece of your
that kind of
paper and you
notion,
make it
right?
into like a small ball and push it to
It's all
the
because
next
you've
player,
been
right?
pressured because you are put in a box
You are constrained
and
within a
you have
box,
no
but
way
you
to
have to
get out of the
deliver from
box, but
point
you
A to
have to
point
deliver
B,
something, right?
the
So you
ball.
have to connect
How do you
from
do that, right?
it's like
And this is
I
where I
think
think,
all of us used to play that
not something
soccer,
you have to be done literally,
a box where you
connecting
make this
through
triangle and
digital
push it.
media.
So you have to push from
Um,
one position,
and then
and
another part
the
is
particular
about
box cannot
all
move.
this supply
Your
chain, right?
players cannot move. You have to
Networking
stay
in
within
terms
that
of
box,
people that
and you
actually
have to push
has
that the ball
the
that
thing
you
that you
make
need
from
to deliver.
you take a piece
Um,
of your paper
I think
and you make into
distributed
like a small
supply chain
ball
is
and
going to
push
be
it to the
very
next player, right?
highly
You're
required here.
constrained within a box,
And
but
you
you
see
have to
now a
deliver
lot
from
of
point A to
even
point B.
like you're gonna book up poster today, right? If you are thinking about I've been cooking for the last 3 4 days. Come on, I'm not gonna cook today. What if I need to makan nasi lemak for buka puasa, right? So now you can easily go into your apps. Now everybody has that. Even people who have not done the so-called delivery for food are doing that. Surf, uh, you know, um, which is a new startup doing the cleaning of your car or repairing your car, vintage your car at home. Now they are in the so-called connecting the buyer and the provider of food services, right? And everything is at a push of a button, right? Using this kind of technology. I think this is the kind of I guess I would say the benefit of COVID. I'm sorry to have to use the word benefit. The benefit of putting into you have to put in a box. You cannot leave the house, and and you don't know because you're gonna take a risk if you go out. What do you do, right? So this is I guess the pandemic. There is I would say hikmah behind this pandemic, and get people to work together, with somebody that you never know. I heard about Vic before, but I never met him, right? You know, and I think this is interesting, way how you connect, how I guess collaborating. Use that word,
Yeah.
and then you asking the question whether is this sustainable. I think post MCO, also going to have still limitation, right? You still cannot move as as you would like before, and there's no longer business as usual. And people talking about it's going to be a new normal, the next normal. What will be the next normal? I think when you meet me next in face to face, let's say MCO lifted, you're still going to be hesitating to shake my hand, isn't it? Or I'm doing the same thing. I'm not going to shake your hand, honestly, right? And we're all going to be covered with our face masks and hopefully not face shield. Hope. Um, and you're still going to be binded by. I have this thinking behind my head that what if he has something that he doesn't know that he has it, and I may have something he doesn't know that. So those are the limitation, right? So again, this is where we think that the use of technology gonna be accelerated. Even now, detecting rather talking about just detecting temperature, maybe there's a way to detect even a virus on the surface without having to take your fleet sample to bring to the lab. What if it can be done? I think these are the question that people like you and me will keep asking. Can we do this? You know, the least we will get is okay. It cannot, but we learn something, right? So we learn something along the way. So it's
Yeah.
challenging the mind of challenging the scientific mind,
Yeah.
challenging the curious mind. So and when people are curious and are bogged down by cannot leave the house, it's a lot of things can happen.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll stop there and we move on to the next question.
Okay. Sure, Doctor. Thank you very much for the insight. So I'm glad that my observation is actually shared by the panelists, right, by an expert. And I believe, yes, like you mentioned, Doctor, we are seeing a technology uptake of more than 500% rate, so it's fivefold the uptake. And I guess since we are in this new normal and this new pressure, so what will happen is that it is up to the technology provider actually to respond to the market, and if we can actually put forward the technology that will actually solve people's problem, then the technology uptake rate will maintain as it is, hopefully. So thank you very much for that. Now we are moving to the second question for Vix. Yeah. Like what Dr. Azmi said, now we are talking about new normal post COVID-19. So, like he said, he will be refusing to shake our hands because of this limited social interaction and whatnot. Right? And of course, this will also affect businesses and operations, and everything. Right. So, even the Prime Minister, in his latest interview the other day, he also reiterated the point of a new normal post COVID-19 with a specific mention of digitalizing the government as well as business operations. So that's exactly what he said. And all of this, IoT immediately comes to mind, basically, right? So can you just share your thoughts on the role of IoT, that will actually play in this new normal environment?
Okay, Hafiz, firstly, thanks for inviting me to speak in today. Thanks to Singularity Aerotech. We're very proud of being your partners. So let me just, before I answer your question, let me just follow on from what Dr. Azmi mentioned. We've been around 20 years, so we can share some wisdom. We've been around the 2008 crisis, the 1998 crisis, the 2000 .com crash. This is very unique, what we're going through, the pandemic. And I have to say, for me, this is nothing to do with economic crash. It's actually a pandemic compared to the previous .com crash and 2008 subprime crash, which is more economic. What I like about this whole pandemic on the positive side is creating a level playing field. That means everyone, the Western world and the Eastern world, is coming to a level playing field. All right. What I see is a lot of new tech companies. I've seen new SMEs are struggling, but they're also coming to the same level playing field with the other SMEs who've been around 5 years, 10 years, because all are struggling the same way. So what I see and I believe will happen is after the post-COVID, I mentioned earlier, you'll see new rock stars. all right? New tech rock stars, new rock stars who are able to keep the company afloat and grow. To add on to what Dr. Azmi said, a lot of creative ideas will come out outside the box. So it's creating a new level playing field. So that's one positive sign. The other second positive, I think that we needed a reset. The whole country needed a reset. The whole global needed a reset. Why I say we lacked humanity. All right. I see this is a chance for corporate humanity. I really want to see big companies actually supporting small companies. All right. Whoever in the audience, I come from big, small companies. During the pre-COVID or before the pandemic, the big guys used to bully the small guys. All right. They will not pay the SMEs. They say, "I pay you later. You small. You go away," and they struggle. And the big guys didn't, and they'll say, "Why should I pay so much? Even your technology is so powerful, so creative. I don't need it. I can sustain." All right. So with this post-pandemic, all of them will come to a level playing field. All of them will require each other, and this is where corporate humanity will come step up, where the big boys and small boys will start to collaborate and to start to do what is right by the human race. So where we start to share technology, we start to collaborate to move forward as a nation. This is a platform that we must leverage of all tech companies, SMEs, even not non-tech companies must leverage of retail companies, education institutions must leverage of to where they should start to collaborate and move the nation forward. All right. So I think when I talk to my team, I talk to my partners, including you guys. You are innovating. You're looking at your processes. You're using this MCO to start looking at your key areas to improve. So coming to your question, to answer your question, so this is where you start to look at your people, process, and technology. So everyone before is Industry 4.0, going to make the world a better place. Industry 4.0, going to make the world a better place. Then I was okay, what do I need to do? There's 9 verticals. Okay, it costs so much. How do I do this? What do I need to do? So there was no driving factor. So, but they continued to spend money and there was revenue leakage. All right. With this post-COVID, they start to say, hey, I need to improve my processes. So I need to automate my process. Because before, during the pandemic, I realized that my process was not well defined. It was very manual. I need to automate with technology. That's where IoT comes into play. So automation with IoT will come into play. Next step is with IoT, you start the ability to do remote monitoring, remote tracking. So there's lack or no human intervention, right? Therefore, you can scale your partnership, you can scale your business, you can start to collaborate easily with your clients. So example, you can also share assets. All right. So example, in the construction site, they have tractors, trucks, lorries. All right. They are now leasing them. All right. So now, if I'm going to lease my truck and tractors and assets, if I can track and monitor where they are, so I know they are with my partner, they're using it for 6 months, they're paying me rental, I know where it is, I know the usage, I can monitor them. All right. So the next time I need to lease it to another partner, I know where to take from. All right. So you start to automate the process. So you minimize having to have a garage to store them. You can start moving your assets around, reduce space on cost. All right. So if you look at people, process, technology, use technology to look at the process, and then come to people. This is where I see people playing a part. When people tell me, "Oh, people lose their jobs," yes, there will be people will lose their jobs because of the retail industry, the tourism. I agree. At the same token, the other industries will require people because we are going to ramp up. The money needs to flow. The nation needs to move forward. So this is where these people need to be reskilled. So I'm looking at technology like IoT and big data and cloud will become a big area for others who don't have a job or lost a job to start looking and reskilling themselves to support the IoT industry. All right. So workforce management will come into play. All right. So if you look at all this, I think that's where the future is going. Uh, I am very we are sad. I'm sad what's happening. People have lost their life. I understand the frontliners are doing what they're doing. I sometimes make fun. I may not shouldn't say make fun. I also say it's like World War III. All right, our frontliners are actually our doctors and nurses and the police officers. All right, they are sacrificing their lives for us, so that we sit here. We need to start thinking innovatively and moving forward. And I need stuff. All right, so that's where you need to improve yourself. So I will stop there. I'll continue my more spiritual talk later at the next question. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Vix. Well, IoT certainly does play a role, right? And the way we look in at IoT and technology will change. Like what you said, right? So it's all about increasing efficiency, but it's also about humanity. It's all about creating new jobs. That comes with the technology and all that. So thank you very much, Vix. I think yes, we would like to hear more about that later on the second round of our talk, right? And so now we move on to the next question for Hafiz. We've talked about technology uptake, and we've also talked about how IoT will be central in post-COVID new normal, right? But just taking a step back and look into what we are having here today, right? So another interesting debate actually that came up, with COVID is actually about data integrity. The reason I see that is because we are seeing live updates of how many people are getting infected or how many people died because of the COVID-19, and these updates are actually from all over the world, from multiple countries. But the thing is, sometimes the facts that are presented to us raise some questions. For example, how come country with a dense population, big population, but the reported cases are very low compared to a country that is smaller, but then the cases are reported to be higher. So all of these actually are still quite a lot of debate, right? And it has some implications into the projections in terms of economic projections, in terms of disease management. How do we want to manage the diseases when we have all this data that raise more questions than answers, right? So that begs the question of data credibility, data integrity. So can you just explain to us, what is data credibility? What is data integrity, and why is it so important? And how do we actually attain this data integrity using technology? Please.
All right, Afif, thank you. Thank you for arranging this session with our partners. So it's always good to bounce off ideas with the experts from the industry and gaining other perspective in the situation that we are currently in. It is definitely a very unique, some would say unprecedented, the situation that we are finding ourselves in at the moment. Now, back to the questions of data credibility. I believe there's this famous saying that goes, data is the new oil. And I think today we can all agree that that's not correct anymore. Data is not the new oil. Data is actually more valuable than oil, right? People are actually not paying you to buy oil from them. So it is truly unprecedented. And in this new war, like Vix has put it just now, against an invisible enemy, accurate, timeliness, and transparent communication are the most important tools in gaining trust of the community at large, right? And in Malaysia, we are quite fortunate that we are able to see this in action with the daily briefing from our health ministry, who's doing a fantastic job in providing the calming voice to the public, providing granularity of the data as and when required. And I believe this does not happen overnight. I believe this is born out of years or decades of putting a framework on how did this data being collected, being organized in such a manner, and through a proper reporting system. Now, some may argue that some of this process is still fairly manual, the way that it's been collected, but nonetheless, there's already a robust framework in place for that to take place. And like you said, globally, we are seeing all this information being made publicly. And this is made possible with supports from the health organizations such as WHO and Johns Hopkins Research Institute. And this also provides a clear picture to the public at large on the severity of the crisis And this is important because you want the public to back any initiatives from the government in order to break the chain of transmission, because you want the public to stay at home. You want them to do their parts as well, not just depending on the frontliners. You don't want them to overwhelm the support system that they have in place. So it is important for you to get the public to buy into this idea of staying at home by sharing the data with them in a timely basis. So they will also be part of this fight against COVID-19. And in the past global crises, such as World War I, World War II, you can see that other than the physical wars, there's always this information wars also taking place to win the minds of the citizen, right? The narrative that is being sold, communism against democracy, and things like that. Today, data itself is the very ammunition that the authorities use to rally the support of the public, to get them to rally behind the work of the frontliners. And it is without doubt the access to credible data in a timely manner is absolutely critical in making the right decisions at the right point, gaining the trust from the public, and formulating the effective policy. Now, how can IoT and technology improve this? So in Malaysia, we already have the framework. In some countries, we already have this framework in place. And with organizations like WHO providing the framework as well. The Internet of Things help in providing infrastructure, in providing far-reaching access to data from people, physical assets, environment, processes, other financial data, and so on. You can see companies like Android or Google, and also Apple started sharing anonymized data in terms of the location and the way that people are changing their travel patterns as well, to provide an insight in terms of the behavior of people under the current pandemic situation. There's still some work to be done, issues with interoperability standard, security, data privacy, and so on. But the premise of the utilization of IoT in allowing for a greater data acquisition system, you cannot ignore it anymore, right? Because the upside of it is just too huge. And we have currently various potential technologies at our disposal, delivering different solutions for different use cases. So you have now the commonly used 3G, 4G, and soon 5G, looking at higher bandwidth and more critical mission points. And you have a more rudimentary or basic technologies like 0G, what we are doing with Sigfox at the moment, to cover more basic information gathering functions, right? All these are complementary. And what we're seeing now is the emergence of multiple platforms that can use these data collection capabilities and convert it into information, which will later be used to provide insights, and also, for financial sustainability, can be monetized as well. And this is not new, because you're seeing this model already being used by the likes of social media platform, because that is potentially your first, IoT business platform that you're seeing in action. Your tool is your mobile device to collect data about yourself. The data is being contextualized, how you use it, where you use it, and where your audience are, and how they are using that information to package it and sell to you targeted ads, right? But for us to just focus on that kind of platform, it can be counterintuitive, because the infrastructure that has to be prepared, for you to go into 4G, 5Gs all the way is huge. You're talking about huge server farms that will require huge financial investment, and will also take its toll in terms of the environmental byproducts as well, and the social ramifications of this as well. So we need to come up with a complementary system. I mentioned about the more rudimentary IoT system that works on lighter payloads, that requires less infrastructure, less energy, but at the same time bring the same effect as you gather more of these small data. And this helps to cover the underserved market sectors as well, like agro industries, non-powered asset, and other often overlooked industries as well. And with this, working hand in hand with the 4G technology, we believe there will be a wider infrastructure for IoT that can actually bring real benefits to all in providing you credible data. So just to recap my points, you know that in this current situation of the pandemic, the publics are looking for real insights to make the right decision at the right point. The publics need to have complete trust in terms of the data that's been collected. And the public needs to know that whatever policy that the decision makers are formulating, it is effective. And by having this IoT infrastructure in place, you will allow some level of decentralization, i.e. you can allow some of decision making to take place lower down the chain, because the data is correct, right? And you would have in place how certain individuals being able to make that kind of decision. The data collection process itself will be tamper-proof. So this will bring a high level of trust to the people using it, right? The same way that blockchain is now selling its technology through cryptography. And constant monitoring allows for real-time feedback so that people will know that any policy making that's being made, so any policy that's being made by the policymakers are effective or not. And if it's not, we can always fine-tune that, and it's a continuous feedback loop for that to happen. So I'll stop there. We can go into details for the sample or for more specific sector application of IoT.
All right, thank you very much, Hafiz. So yeah, like you mentioned just now, so data collection, need to be tamper-proof, so there is a level of trust in terms of decisions made, based on reliable data, right? And the technology will actually automate that process, and it will also give real-time feedback, and it will also enable data acquisition on multiple levels, with a multiple level of technologies as well. So thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, right now, we are still trying to get Dr. Azmi back into the forum. Yeah, he's having some technical difficulties right now. So we have to skip one question. So now we go straight back to Vix, right? That should be fine, yeah, Vix?
Yep.
Okay. It's quite interesting when initially we discussed with Dr. Azmi just now about how people are now taking up technology and whatnot, right? And then you also mentioned when people are actually put in a box, so they have to actually use the technology or whatever tools that they have to survive, and that's when they will actually take up all this technology. But the thing is, as with any other technology, right, IoT is also always perceived as something that is expensive or complicated, especially by the smaller players like the SMEs. So they always have this mindset that it's a nice to have rather than a must have, right? And with this MCO during this COVID-19, this sentiment or this basically this mindset is compounded, by the financial impact that they are having because of this MCO. So the question now is this: so do you really agree with this, perception of technology being expensive and only cater to a certain segment of the market, right? And I have a feeling that you won't agree with that, So if you don't agree with that, right? So how do we actually break this stigma, So how do we tell people that technology doesn't have to be expensive, doesn't have to be complicated?
Okay. A good question, Hafiz. So let me give you a bit of history about Esperanti and Sigfox technology, so you understand why we deployed it to support the nation in relation to Industry 4.0. So in 2017, middle of 2017, Khazanah invested in Sigfox globally. The reason they invested in Sigfox because they saw the need for Industry 4.0 and IoT adoption to increase, especially in Malaysia. So when Esperanti got the rights to Sigfox in Malaysia, and we also, at the same token, we wanted to make sure we deployed a nationwide telco-grade network. So end of 2017, we got the MCMC license, similar to telco, and we actually discussed and we said we need to deploy a nationwide IoT network, dedicated IoT network based on Sigfox technology. So we started deployment in 2018. By end of 2018, we have covered 80% of the Malaysian population, including Sabah Sarawak. End of last year, we will hit about 90%, and we continue to densify, including Sabah and Sarawak. Now, the reason why we deployed the technology because is to actually support the adoption of Industry 4.0, and that is where IoT comes in play. Like what Hafiz was mentioning earlier, there's a space where 4G and 5G don't cover. Sigfox is based on low bandwidth, low power, and there are many assets and environment and individuals that need to be tracked and monitored that can help fast track the business. So when it comes to SMEs, that's one of the reasons why we decided to deploy a nationwide network to support SMEs in relation to our agenda for the country, and discussing with Khazanah and said, no, we need to support SME, and therefore we deployed this nationwide network. Now, the Sigfox technology and the solution is actually very practical and scalable. And it is very, I mean, we got commercial models that are subscription based up to RM1 a day per device. All right. Now, the objective is to take all these SMEs through a journey. So the adoption IoT is not one big bang. All right. We need to take them through an adoption process or journey. So in the adoption journey is we first establish all their top 5, top 10 issues in their existing process. Example, if you got all your non-powered asset, you look at logistics. Okay. Today in Malaysia, one truck is to 5 containers or trailers. Now the trucks, the engine, the primers are now powered with their own vehicle battery, so they can use 4G. But the containers and trailers are non-powered. You cannot track them. You can't use 4G because 4G every day you have to charge the device. So that's where Sigfox comes in. So in other parts of the world, it's 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, one primer to 2 containers or 3 containers. We are 1 to 5 because we're not tracking them. So we have a couple of projects that were successful in 2019 to show that you can actually monitor all and track all your non-power assets to reduce your costs. This helps the SME to reduce the cost. All right, that's one. Second, you also be able to monitor remotely certain environment, especially in agriculture. SME, there are a lot of small farmers that need to compete with the big boys. All right, so you can actually remote monitoring of your soil, where we work with Singularity Aerotech, where we can monitor the soil remotely. Therefore, we know when to irrigate the soil. If it rains, we will know that it's actually washed out all the fertilizers. Then we know when to top it up, so they don't waste the fertilizer. All right, you can measure the pH level, electrolyte level. So remote monitoring helps them reduce their costs. So what we do, the part of the journey is we help them establish the business case. So one of the important thing is not about shock scenery, sexy technology. It's about how do we solve a problem, help them build a business case to justify. You invest 10,000 ringgit, you're actually saving 100,000 ringgit. All right. Therefore, the adoption rate increases. So we take them through a phase-by-phase journey, one use case at a time. Therefore, the adoption becomes strong. It's like educating someone. All right. You can't just say, okay, you're going to do SPM. You're 10 years old. No, it doesn't work that way. So this is where we work with partners who are very patient, we're very focused, we work through SMEs which actually need help at this point in time, and we're coming into the market and making sure it's practical and scalable. It's very important. Okay, so that's where I see Sigfox is also known as 0G, IoT space. Not meant like low, not powerful. It's very powerful, like what Hafiz was saying earlier. It's how you look at it. Okay, I mean, just one more point. You know, the medical industry today. Now, if all the medical hospitals did deploy the Sigfox technology for all the ventilators and all their medical supplies, they will know exactly where they are today. All right. If they had all that, they would be able to deploy the assets in the right area at the right time. Today is all based on some software, Excel spreadsheet. Mana dia? Tak tahu lah, kat sana, kat sini. Cuba cari. So the delayed in time impact the health. So this is where a massive gap that we will be able to fill up, because this pandemic is just the tip of the iceberg. We need to be prepared. So tracking non-powered assets from the medical industry, healthcare is so important, all right? From the logistic perspective is so important. When next round comes in, we'll be able to exercise and take the necessary actions very effectively, including the third point is workforce management. Today you track through mobile phone, your app, your phone. Yeah, great. But that is fine. But you need to come up with where we have with SAT, with a simple device, a single charge, can last up to 6 months. You just keep in your pocket, like with a panic button, wherever you are, you can see where they are. So example, if everyone had that track, you know where all your enforcement officers are today, where all your frontliners are today. You don't need to download an app because you have to charge your phone. Where they got time to charge? You know, they need help. They can press the button, straight goes to a command center saying, "Hey, 5 nurses at the Selayang hospital need help." They just press the button, then they can immediately take action. Today, there is no mechanism. So this is where we are going to make an impact to the humanity. All right. So this is where I'm expecting some rockstar tech guys to come up with the new technology to leverage off the Sigfox nationwide IT network we have in Malaysia.
All right, thank you very much, Vix, for that. So we got a quick history lesson, how Experanti came about, right? And it's quite really interesting because yes, at the very heart of it is actually to help SMEs to adopt this technology, which is quite interesting. And I'm also interested with what you said about the adoption journey, basically. So we have to actually take them to going through this journey so that they can actually see the value, in stages, basically. So thank you very much, Vix. And welcome back, Dr. Azmi. And we are so glad that you are back. We have to skip one turn just now. Um, right now, I think because Vix has brought up quite a lot of human aspect, of technology, in his points, in his two questions just now. So I would like to further discuss about that as well with you, seeing that you are also an advocate in talent development in Crest, Dr. Azmi.
Sure. Sure.
What do you think, or what would be your advice, right, to the employers, employees or job seekers, in terms of what they have to prepare themselves with, post COVID-19. So with all this technology adoption, with all this accelerated development of things, how do they
Yeah.
adapt to this?
I think can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think it was a glitch in the communication network. So I think at the end of the day, it boils down to the company itself. I think we were looking at in the area of adoption of Industry 4 in manufacturing, for example, right? Interestingly, when we first started the journey of Industry 4, I think strand and whatnot are also part of some discussion about a couple of years ago. There's a lot of resistance among the SME, especially in terms of adopting the technology, adopting the in terms of just measuring the information about the machine, how things are performing and whatnot to their server. Even that is very lagging behind. But I think that the beauty of having this constraint of cannot having 100% of your resources working in the factory. You have to do a schedule in terms of maybe instead of having a full crew, you're gonna have a half crew or third crew or one third of your crew working. But there's also opened up the question: hey, what if I don't have to have all these people and now automate my processes? And like what Vic just mentioned in terms of information from the machine can be easily pushed out to the to cloud. Not having, hey, where do I find information about what was the batch that was doing this morning, and what was the so-called raw material that where does it come from? Where's the the yield information? All that can be automated, and then this is where the situation like this pandemic really surfaced the needs. And again, I'm going back, this is all the hikmah of having this pandemic, and people will say, you should have done that before 2 years ago, right? And otherwise, and you wouldn't have to worry about, okay, well, what do I do with all these resources, right? It's going to be human capital issues in terms of human resource issues. How do you manage these resources? So to use the word non-productive resources, I have to be very blunt about that. But then if you have taken the steps of train them properly how to actually to maybe take the information from the machine and able to monitor it and use your new skills and learn skills of automating and adoption of Industry 4 and IoT and whatnot. you will be able to, I guess, prepare yourself for this pandemic, better than, where you are right now, right? And again, this kind of a talent issue also going to be a problem, because how do you work with the new, talent that coming out from universities? Um, there will be limited, one is people already working in the industry. You probably have to retrain them, reskill them, and place them elsewhere. The other one is a new force of a batch of talent coming out. I mean, June, July is not that far away from us, and you have hundred thousands of new grads going to be coming out from universities, and they'll be looking for jobs, right? So what kind of jobs? So on one hand, you have resources that are, I use the word access, because of this COVID situation, and it should not have been access if we have take the time to train them properly before, and with the adoption of technology before the pandemic happened. Now you have double whammy of double jeopardy of resources that coming out from the universities, and they were thinking about, okay, I can take my time to learn about IoT, how to actually do automation and coding, and getting all this information from my machines and whatnot. Now this is the time where only people who actually can adapt and learn technology fast gonna survive, or make better than the other person, right? So I think but at the same time, it's the beauty of this for the employer, because now you got it's becoming an employer market all of a sudden, right? You have resources that's abundant, right? I don't may not even have to hire any of these guys, because they can also work from home, right? If I can connect my machine and all this information to be analyzed by a bunch of people who can actually do the data analysis for me and tell me, okay, guys, you actually are looking in the wrong place. This is some opportunity here. So I can use that resources for that particular project. Say I having my yield at 85%. I have all the data. Can I push all my data to you? You tell me where did I did not look. Sometimes you need a pair of an eyes, a new pair of eyes, new set of skills to look at your data, because sometimes you are in the operation, you are into the operation itself, and you can get somebody from outside the operation say, hey, I think you're looking at things differently, and because you are not from within the operation, you can ask all these so-called stupid questions, and maybe from the stupid question you get some good answers, right? So this is the opportunity where now employer like like both of you in the call today, and you can abundant of resources you can choose from, right? And what you can do, let's do hackathon to pick the best talent. So I'll do a 24-hour hackathon. The one that has the best solution, I'll hire you, right? But I don't have even to hire you to bring you to my office. You can work from home, right? And then you can still deliver, the results for me, and I'll pay you, right? So I think it's changed the whole mindset about human capital, your resources. You don't have to be put them on your I don't know payment plan or salary plan with all the benefits, because they don't need to travel. That's one thing, and they may not be to be in the office, all the 8 to 12 hours per day or whatever. Everything can be done over the phone and over teleconference. Like like my job, for example, I used to travel a lot before this pandemic. Now I've not been traveling since, right? Which is great, but I can still get the job done. And you realize sometimes that 1 hour meeting that you need, you have to travel all the way from Penang to Johor, or Penang to KL for that 1 hour meeting, and then come back. You spend a good 6, 7 hours, to make the plan from where you are to the meeting, and then 1 hour meeting, and then come back. So things are, you can have more time to put all your resources in the right place. I think in terms of your, productivity, in terms of people productivity, and money that you spend on resources, on getting the best talent. And you may want to think about, maybe the best talent are not here in Malaysia. I'm trying to say that, right? Maybe some of the things that you need to do, there are probably better talents elsewhere, but because of this, a pandemic, you have access to many talents. So here, guys, to those Malaysian listening, if you don't have a job yet, so you should go and buck up and try to see, can you do things offline, not in the office. Can you do things fast enough, and can you build things on somebody else's work, and then improve further. And then can you convince the likes of these two guys on on the call today, Vic and Hafiz, can you secure a job by talking to them over video conference? Here we go. That's a challenge for the talents out there, right? So yeah, but opportunities on both sides, I think, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. That is very interesting, and the way I see it is that it's a whole new way of working. The change is much bigger than I actually thought initially it would be. It's quite interesting, you see. And then with what you said, with all these new arrangements, working from home, working offline, or continuing other people's work, these are the kind of skills that I don't think they actually teach in the university.
They
So
don't.
this is very
They don't.
interesting, and I
They
really
don't.
hope there are a lot of people listening to us now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so thank you. That is actually a good insight into what we should be preparing ourselves for as employer, as employees, or employees to be. I
No, maybe,
think
maybe, 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 maybe I feel I want to touch something because I
yes.
know I've been connected by this Celcom guy. Celcom did not cover my house area that well. So if there's Celcom listening,
There you go.
I'm not gonna make a complaint. It's something that I've been working around, the concept in Motorola. We call it DABA, 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 design anywhere, build anywhere, right? And I think this is where, in terms of, because limitation of traveling, and also where you can leverage other people's design, and you don't have to move bulk materials from point A to point B just because you get your customers the other part of the world. Design can be anywhere, right? And this is where also you leverage the community of designers and developers, very, very, aggressively, and to your benefit, because you don't have to, like I said, the human capital part, you don't have to hire them as your employer, right? As your employee, I'm sorry. And you can leverage the best designers, on project basis, right? And the good thing is you can also leverage on manufacturers that are closer to your customers, right? So this is a design where built anywhere, it will more benefiting the smaller players, because they are more agile, they're closer to where the customers are, and you're able to deliver to the customer need, within a fraction of the time, compared to big manufacturers. You have to manufacture in a big factory, and then you have to transport from point A to point B, and then some you go through using ship, using a big delivery trucks and whatnot. With DABA, you can actually do a lot more things faster and benefit the smaller guys, in fact. And this is where I think, I'm jokingly say to some of the community of the entrepreneur here, it's going to be the startup, going to be so-called, I guess, will become their time, for the years to come. That's my personal prediction, right? And I think the big corporation must, I guess, uh, I guess, take this into as part of the opportunity. How do I also benefit this startup community? Smaller, medium scale enterprise that are in different location close to where my customers are, and I use it as part of my supply chain, right? Not just supply chain from materials, from even designers, design point of view, and developers point of view. I can leverage on distributed designers. I can leverage on distributed supply chain, and the benefit is there, right? It's just that it's no longer business as usual, right? It's going to be a new normal, and if we don't embrace the new normal, you're going to be abnormal. I can tell you right now. So, thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you very much, Doctor. Well, good news for us startups then. So this is our time. Right. I think, yeah, DABA, design anywhere, build anywhere. I think that's a very interesting concept, and it's a very interesting idea. But it's not really. I think it's something that we can all actually learn from, and it's not really impossible to actually do for most of us. Um, uh, so now we do have some questions coming in. So before we actually ask those questions, I think we go to the last structured question that we have in store for Hafiz, right? And this is a bit out of the way from what we have discussed so far. It touches a bit on what Vix mentioned about agriculture just now, right? So it is another issue that has been brought to light due to this COVID-19 crisis that we have, which is food security. right? So it is something that people did not really talk about much before COVID-19, and now all of a sudden everybody is interested in it, right? And although the government has assured us that food security is okay, we have enough food, to sustain throughout this difficult time. Obviously, we think that the food security has to be bolstered, in the future. So, Hafiz, do you have any opinion as to how technology actually comes in? Especially when we talk about IoT, because some people, they can't really make that bridge between agriculture, food security, and also technology like, remote monitoring, technology like automating some of the processes, right? How that can actually contribute to food security. So if you can just explain that.
Thank you, Afif. So when we started our own journey into this IoT application, we are surprised to find that one of the most important industry in Malaysia, that is food and agriculture, is still fairly underserved by the technology, And you look at the current supply chain for food crop production, it's still maturing. From our own observation and research, the industry itself, we are talking about food crop, it only accounts for less than half. I think the last count is about 40% of our overall agriculture GDP. And this is because as a country, we always focus on commodity crop, like palm oils, rubbers, that we can export. And because of that, the food production has always been dominated by smallholder farmers. And in most cases, the processes are the same, unchanged for the last 20 to 30 years. That there are always existing issues with regards to distribution network, the way they use the land, the way they rehabilitate the land, quality control of the produce, and overly reliance on foreign labors. And not to say that there's no progress to be made at all. We have seen some applications in IoT, in small farms and greenhouses, focusing on crops like chilies, rock melons, with some level of success. But really, it's limited to that particular crops and also farms. The way I feel it, if you want to tackle this food security issue at the national level, we need to start thinking like a global industry. You need to take a leaf out of other global and connected industry like aerospace or automotive, And we, being an aerospace background company, we certainly have a lot of latent know-how on how to actually do the process map from end to end. At the center of it is the use of data in deriving and designing the process of the supply chain. I'd like to share with you guys a presentation that we shared with the ministry that presented last week, that perhaps can give a bit of a better picture on how I envisage the agriculture 4.0 supposed to look like, right? So we chipla a bit from the industry 4.0, right? So we're now going to call it industry agriculture 4.0, and I'm going to see whether we can trademark that. Make some money swing from people that they're using it. But let me just see if I can share my screen here. So I was invited by the Ministry of Youth just last week to present in terms of our view of the job market and also the employment among youth, and what are the sectors that we should be paying our attention on. And one of them is actually agriculture. And for us, the future farms, it will be focusing on a lot of small farmers, where we will be modeling our farms based on sustainable food production, a small carbon footprint, with a combination of traditional farm and urban farm. And you'll see a lot more IT savvy farmers going into the industry, and a lot of uptakes on the use of IoT devices and sensors, because you need to collect a lot of data. You need to start looking into precision farming to reduce the waste of fertilizers, the over treating your lands and requiring it to be rehabilitated more than it's supposed to do. And also you can see creation of a lot of new jobs, such as drone pilots, etc. And when I talk about the way that we want to revolutionize the agriculture ecosystem through digitalization, this is what I mean by talking about end-to-end ecosystem, right? You're talking about farmers on one end, governed by or enabled by the various government and relevant agencies to facilitate whatever activities that need to happen for the produce to reach the buyers and traders at the other end. So the first layer talks about the need to have a more accessible data acquisition platform that use IoT sensors network that allows for constant monitoring of the environment. You're talking about pH sensors, water sensors, NPK sensors, and various other sensors that will enable more accurate farming methods to be applied, right? And with the utilization of this data acquisition platform, we can see it, and we've done it in the past with some of our farming partners. We can see immediate cost reduction in the utilization of fertilizers and other chemical treatments, such as hormones and things like that. And at the same time, increase in revenue by means of reduction in the crops reject, right? And what it enables as well, at this first pass, just collecting the data from the various farms, it allows also for the government to see the effectiveness of the policies that they are putting in place. They can see for the farms that they are sponsoring that the fertilizers are indeed being used for the right reasons, right? And for the buyers and traders at the other end, with the data coming from the farmers, the buyers and traders can now track or can forecast more accurately when can they expect the produce to be delivered to them, and how many of those are going to be produced at a certain time. So that allows for better forecasting and better preparation and more efficient distribution of the produce. So that's just at the first layer of collecting all this data. Imagine if you have this data collected over time, say over 1 year or 2 years, and you allow AI to drive some of the trend analysis and prediction, you will have now a more enriched information database, whereby you can go at the granular level to actually predict the taste that may, the tasting level of certain fruits coming from a specific type of soils that you're planting in, right? Because you have enough data to do with that based on the rainfall that the particular crops. I'm giving example based on pineapple farms, which is particularly sensitive to the amount of rainfall it is seeing. So you can actually predict in future the taste, the sweetness level of this fruit that's been produced, thus able you to gauge the pricing further down the line. And that helps with regards to the farmers being able to develop perhaps sub-products. So maybe the farmers finding that the sweetness level not going to be make it marketable to be sold as a raw fruit. They may be able to sell it as condiments, as jam, for example, as a canned fruits. So that will give them the ability to respond, you know, in future with enough time for them to make that preparation, because they can forecast it. Now, you take another layer of that. With the right R&D policy, investment strategy, you now will able to have insight on all this data and information, where you can now actually develop financial products, right? So this is something that we're seeing already in high value crops like durian, where they are developing huge durian farms with proper facilities in place and sensors and all that. And they are marketing it as investment opportunities. And the reason they're able to do that, because there's enough know-how in there, enough of the risk being quantified through the technology as well as the experts' involvement into the overall process, that they're selling it as an investment instrument. And this is something that you can actually do for other crops as well, like pineapple, rock melons, and other initiatives that have been taken by the state governments or the federal governments. And the way that it works, it allows for immense scalability. So it's not just limited to a particular crops. You can also roll it across to other crops as well. Okay, so this is the way that I'm seeing how the government can actually guarantee revenue security for the future. Sorry, I'm talking about the food security for the future. Okay, Afif?
Okay, thank you very much, Hafiz. So basically, it is all about improving the efficiency of our fruit production, so that we can get better yield. We can encourage more people to take up agriculture with technology infused in it, and that is how we will actually secure the food security for the country. So thank you very much, Hafiz, for that insight. And with that, I think we have ended our structured question session. And now we can go to the question and answers. And we do have a few questions. And we will try to answer everything because we have about 4 or 5 questions right now. Right. So I think the first question, I think this one is directed to Dr. Azmi, right? Because when you spoke about how ideas actually got let fly because of this COVID-19 situation, where people are thinking more and coming up with more solutions and whatnot. But there's one viewer asking, how can we really challenge our creativity in this lockdown time? Because when we try to come up with all these solutions, right, we are not even sure that they actually meet the demands or the requirements out there, because we are confined in our this MCO. So what do you think about that? So that is the first question. So if you can answer that question, Dr. Azmi. We can't hear you, Doctor. Oh, we have some technical problem there. So maybe if Vix want to pitch in first for that question, if you have anything. You're on mute, Vix. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very good question. It's tough, I must say, to come up with something creative when doing the MCO. No denying about it. We have to acknowledge that. What I ask of these entrepreneurs, use this opportunity to research, uh, use this opportunity to establish the business case, do some numbers, figures. If I'm doing this solution, what is the potential market? Who are my audience? So do that, understand your market, where you're going, what problem you're going to solve, try to do some numbers. Second, use this opportunity to start to collaborate. Start to go out there and create your profile. Go out there, build your profile. Use LinkedIn, it's free. Use LinkedIn and showcase. I have this solution. I build this solution. Is there anyone out there want to test? All right, go out there. Look for partners, or even though in the MCU you can't test. Look out. They say, okay, yes, I'm interested. Let me explain to you this. I tell you what, my guys, interestingly, are testing in the house. All right, they come up with solution, and they're testing it in the house with the soil, putting the sensors, getting the data, because before we go to test at the customer side. So we need to start thinking creative. So understand what you have, understand the market, understand the business case, how you're going to solve, and then market it on LinkedIn. It's free on your Facebook or whatever, and find partners to collaborate and say, okay, can we do this? So you can actually share the mechanism for them to test, and they say, yeah, it works in my place. Why not? Let's do that.
Hmm.
So we need to leverage what we have today. So Dr. Aiki is back. I'll let him continue. No, I'll go
Yep.
on.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think spot on. What Vic is mentioning. I think what I was trying to say. Before I get cut off. Basically, it's the whole process about having an idea, testing the idea before you can get it to be accepted by the buyer or the user. I think in this case of during this MCO and pandemic situation, you have a brilliant idea, but I always keep telling the startups and also some of the people that are working in the last few weeks, prototyping some solution for the frontliners. You have to test. You have to make sure that whatever you try, that you're proposing, they get to see it, right? And I think this is very important to kind of close that gap of I have something, the other person want it, but I don't know whether what I have is the other person will accept it. So you have to quickly close that gap, and let's fix it. Uh, Post the question, use your whatever social media network that you have, whether it's a LinkedIn or WhatsApp, or even using Facebook, and I said, hey, I have this great idea. Do you think this is gonna be accepted by the frontliners? And somebody will say, yes, I know somebody who can help you to. And that's what happened over the last few weeks, because we don't know the doctors, right? I think the issue with a lot of medical, so-called technology, you have a great ideas, but you don't know whether it's going to be able to be used in the so-called situation where the doctors are trying to fix or try to handle the patient, and you have to get their views quickly, right? And this process is happening very quickly during this pandemic period. I can tell you right now, from ideation to prototyping to validation. Otherwise you will take months. This is going to be happening within 1 week. If you can, within 24 hours, you get a lot of ideas throwing. I just test this model actually with a couple of so-called questions that I have. Just posting any idea that you already have originally. You're looking for more ideas. Put on LinkedIn, put on Facebook. Other people coming in to either validate or kind of enhance your idea, or even tell you, hey, this is something people have done something similar. I think you should pursue it. And then the guy said, hey, I'm looking for this, right? By using the social media is a way to help you to validate your idea faster, right? And it just has to be, you have to be open to it. If you're not open to it, then you're not going to get the answer for for your ideas, whether it's going to work or not.
Okay, doctor. Thank you very much for that. So I think use the power of social media. I think that's what we are getting from both Dr. Azmi and Vix just now. Collaborate with others. Share some ideas, throw around the ideas. That's how you get all the requirements, all the needs from the market. So thank you very much. So moving on to our next question. I'm not sure if Vix is still there. Vix. All right. There you are. Right, Vix. The second question is actually for you. This is about managing expectations, right? So basically, it says here some customers they tend to treat technology like magic pills that will actually solve all problems, right? And then they get disappointed when it does not, And so how do we manage this?
Okay, I think it's a tough question because when you go out there, you want to pitch as startups. They sell the vision, all right? They say I can do A, B, C, D. I can make the world a better place for you, etc. So it's very important that you share the information very clearly. What is it you're going to do? You must be very clear. This is where I want to say the new norm is all outcome-based economy. So no one is going to buy technology because it's sexy. No one is going to buy technology because it's going to automate my process. They don't care. No one is going to buy technology because it's going to remove money. It's going to show me how am I going to save money, make money, or reduce losses. So it's outcome-based economy. So that is very important. That's why I said earlier, you must help build the business case. So you tell a client, with my solution, I'm going to help you save money. Example, 30% losses will be reduced. All right. So therefore, there's an expectation very clear. They understand? this is what your solution is going to do, help save me money over 12 months. So if the expectation is very clear, it's tangible, measurable, it's very important. All right. So at the same token, I have to say there are many customers have expectation that it cannot be put in black and white. They are thinking because they went for some conference, someone told them about AI can make the world from far. I can see things. Who can do a lot of things, and then they said, "Wow, so much!" Then you go and then they come and say, "I want to do that." Then they say, "If you want to do that, it's going to cost you a lot of money." But the business case don't justify. Correct? So I'm expecting it's a two-way communication. It's like a partnership. When doing business, is you supplying and the customer. So I always tell when I coach startups, be careful who you choose your customer. You also must be picky. If you're desperate, you ask for trouble. Because you're desperate, the customer will bully you.
Yeah.
Let me be honest. Today, that's why I go back to corporate humanity. The big boys need to stop bullying the small boys. The big boys must tell the small boys, come, show me what you have. Work together with me. Help me improve together. If I make money, you make money. All right? Don't come and say, so you need a balance. So I tell startups, we want to manage expectations, but choose your customer. Don't be afraid to walk away.
Right.
If your customer is tough, they're asking for the mountain and the hill or whatever, say, thank you very much, go and buy from IBM. They will charge you 10 million, 200 million. I will only charge you 1 million. Never mind, you don't want to buy. Walk away. It's
Right.
like finding your spouse, your partner.
Yeah.
Be careful who you choose your partner. Right? Same with customer. Don't be afraid to walk away.
All right. That's great advice. Dr. Azmin, do you want to add something?
I think I like the notion of a outcome based economy, because I think can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Outcome-based economy, require to demonstrate what you are saying. I think that's the what the way I see it. You can promise the sky, you can promise all the different thing to your potential customers, but if you cannot deliver, you cannot demonstrate how it's going to work. I think that's going to be where you're not going to be able to seal that deal, particularly. I think that's says it all. I don't have anything else to add. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, there's a follow-up to that question, and I think Hafiz might be the person to answer this one, right? So when we talk to customers, right? So obviously, when you want to introduce technology, especially IoT, right? So we have to understand the processes, and some of the customers they don't understand these processes, right? So does it mean that as a technology provider, we also have to act sort of like a consultant, a business consultant, to actually walk them through that rope of actually identifying all these processes, all the weak points, all the pain points? Because or because if that is the case, then the work of a technology provider is much more complicated than it sounds.
Hello.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. So now you are talking about the evolving role of a technology provider or promoter of the technology, right? Because like Vix was saying, is that it has to be based on outcome. And when you talk about trying to distill the essence of the technology to people who are not familiar with the technologies, you always have to put yourselves in the shoes. So a good example is like what our Prime Minister tried to do in his one of his early briefings during the COVID-19, when he was talking about the assistance that the government was trying to give out to the B40. And he used the example of Makcik Kia as way to drive the points home, because that is something that is quite relatable, or even on something basic like the government handouts, right? Because you cannot assume that people can immediately understand what you are trying to tell them the first time. So giving an example or a use case in our case is always a good way to get the first buy-in, because you need to not overly patronize them in a way that assuming that they didn't know anything, but at the same time bring you need to able to position it in as such that they know that this is the solution that they need rather than the thing that they want, because there's a big difference between those two, right? The things that they want is probably what they read in the newspaper or what they've seen in the news, something that's completely irrelevant in the context of what they actually need to solve their problems. So as a technology provider, it's very important for us to understand what those needs are and try to come up with a solution that can fit those needs and give them the quick wins and start to gain their trust in a way with those quick wins. But I always believe that it's a slippery slope if we keep going along these notions of quick wins along the way without a big framework in the picture, because technology always evolving. If you do quick wins all the time, then you will always be stuck with the technology that you have at the time, right? With the processes that you have at the time, your constraints, right? So the quick wins that you want to dole out or you want to do always have to fit in the larger framework of the solution that you want to eventually provide to your customers. So big picture vision, but you have to distill it in a way that the customers can quickly understand and can digest those with quick wins to gain their confidence and sell the idea forward to their top management.
All right, thank you very much. So I think the short answer to that question by Hafiz is yes, we have to do more than just selling technology. We have to actually understand and advise our customers, right? We are running out of time, but there is one more question coming up from the chat. So the question is, what are issues possibly faced to improve big data capabilities by government agencies and SME after COVID-19 before their acceptance to move forward and excel? So basically, do we have issues that will actually stop us from having all these technologies being adopted to its full potential? So I think I just open this. Anyone that would want to answer that question?
Let's go with the most experienced Dr. Azmi first.
Yes.
Then we go.
Well, I think I'm probably the least relevant person, because I'm not a data scientist. I'm not a people with IT background and statistics. I'm more a chemical engineer. But let me give you from my perspective. Um, I think the government has to open in terms of receiving all these different source of data, and learn how to allow people to do all this so-called data gathering, and become the so-called I guess the collectors of all this data, and then try to make sense out of it. Because if you try to do everything yourself, you cannot do it. Because you are basically your job is basically to look at policies and how to improve the well-being of the people. I think as a government, you have to facilitate, you have to enable. So I think if the government try to do everything, I'm not trying to be very specific, but you can see the last 1 week or so, government try to do things themselves, right? And I think you have to allow for the startups, for the great minds out there, and listening, and also part of this session. Let them do the nitty gritty of pulling the data from the crowd, from the people on the street, from homes, from the patients, and then roll the data out to a data bank where then you get all the best analysts in the country or in the world to go analyze those data, right? You have to basically I guess embrace this crowd based whatever activity, technology, or solution, or even information sharing. Of course, you're gonna get some garbage data, right? So the smart ones will have to figure out which are the right data to pull out. But let people have the flexibility to say, I have this information. How do I get this information to be used by the government that could probably help to see whether perhaps know where are the source of this the so-called COVID-19 comes about, right? And I think these are the so-called the power of the people, power of the crowd, and can enable things to be done faster. As long as government don't get into the I have to do everything myself. I have to make sure that it comes from my ministry. Sorry to be
Yeah.
sometimes I try to avoid being a little bit of emotional, but I have to in this case. If the ministry want to do things themselves, it's going to take ages to get things done. Let the crowd, let the public do things, and let the some of the smart people out there, and do the all this I guess pulling the information, and then push the information to a national data bank, and you analyze them, right? And that's my advice to the whoever listening out there, I guess
All right. Vix, do you have anything to add?
Okay, to me, big data was seen as a government and enterprise agenda. Big data is enterprise companies want to use big data, government want to use big data. The new norm is going to be government, enterprise, and community, people,
Yep.
citizens.
Correct.
All right, very, very important. These three is going to be the new norm. All right. Then adding to Dr. Azmi, this is something I've been advocating. We need a ministry of data. There needs to be an independent ministry of data that is responsible to collect metadata across the three big sectors: community, enterprise, and government. And
Yep.
this metadata is used for research, development, understanding, etc., etc. So you
Correct.
know the air quality. The point here is what is the benefit for the community? The benefit is self-enforcement. So when they use, the community itself can say, "Hey, I want to go to the market. What is the air quality there? Is it good? Should I take my children there?
True.
I want to go to an event. Is it crowded? Should I take my kids there, my family there?" So that is self-enforcement comes in for the committee. Enterprises to pick up the data to improve the business, to use it to collaborate with government and community. Right? So like smart longkang, we talked about water level monitoring. As the water level increases, the community can take action, clear the drain before DBKL come. If they don't clear, we have dengue or we have flash flood. So do we wait for the government to clean the drain or you clean the drain? So we provide the data to next step is self-empowerment. All right, very, very important. So I see all this playing a big part. I hope someone in the ministry sitting there listening to us, we need a ministry of data. All right, very important. The other point I want to raise, the new norm is Personal Data Protection Act will change. You cannot avoid it. So self-enforcement, you protect your data, but what you put on the net, what you put out is not going to be protected. Because people need to know, the government needs to use the data to help the nation. Where were you 3 months ago? Where were you 2 weeks ago? How many people were around there? If there's a pandemic, they know how to take action. You cannot hide from that. So it's important. Some data needs to be shared for the well-being of the nation. So you need to remember that search and rescue team, when they go out there, they want to know how many people are stuck in that kampong, are flooded. So they know how many search and rescue team to send. All right. Want to know what's the water level in that area? So it's flooded. Do I need to take sampan or can I still go to a truck? So all this information is required and it needs to be given for the well-being of the nation. So Personal Data Protection Act will change. There needs to be where everyone coming together, community, enterprise, government. All right. So that is very important.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Azmi and Vix, for that answer. It's quite interesting to see that when we talk about the new norm, it's really something big. It's a big change that we have to really adapt here. And I think, yeah, I do hope that people are listening and will take action. And Ministry of Data sounds quite cool, to be honest. And yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea, that one. Okay, I think we have reached at the end of our webinar. Unfortunately, we do have some questions, but I think it's already almost 10 past 5. So we will, for the benefit of the person who posted the question, we will answer the question offline if we can get the answers. We will be in contact with our speakers. Don't worry. And before we end the session, I will give each speaker about 1 minute to just summarize, the discussion, or maybe to talk about your expectation, your hope, your aspiration. What do you think about the nation, COVID-19, IoT, and all. So we can start with Dr. Azmi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. No, I think I want all the listeners out there and people that probably tune in and listen back to this recording. I think take the opportunity of the time that you are spending at home during this COVID-19 MCO. Um, Learn things that you could not learn before because you're too busy. Traveling because you're too busy. Doing things that are to get things done. This is the time a God-given time where you can learn a lot of things online. I think a lot of so-called platforms are giving it for free, and embrace it. And then I think use the power of community to actually to test your ideas and to get feedbacks about what your opinions are. I think people are more happy to provide their opinion and recommendations if they know somebody. I think a lot of I'll say our shields and guard are down because of this COVID-19 in terms of collaborating and listening from people that you never met before, right? And I think this is the beauty of of being at home. But as long as you have a good a Wi-Fi, a broadband connection, not like today, then you should be able to get all the information that you need, and also spend the time accordingly. Don't stay 24/7 in front of your computer or your devices. You can plan your time and spending time with the family and your personal time and whatnot with this MCO. I think it's a blessing in disguise. It's things that are God given time for us to stay home and maybe plan for the future, plan for the post MCO. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Azmi. Vix?
Okay, I have just one word and I'll explain why. This is opportunity to actually test and rate your self-discipline. I think it's so important. During this period, is actually testing everyone's self-discipline. Earlier, we talked about young individuals looking for jobs. They're all very skilled. You could get multiple jobs. You can do freelance from home. But if you don't have self-discipline, you will not be able to do anything. You can be the smartest person in the world, the
Yeah,
best skill, but you got no discipline, you will not able to achieve anything. So this is the period for each one who's at home. Develop your self-discipline, have a routine, focus, clear, build your skills, mind, body, and soul. You can't just sit a laptop and learn, but you also have to be physically moving, active. But the discipline is so important so that the new world is the future is young generation will have multiple jobs working from home. Morning, get up, they could be doing a programming. In the evening, they could be teaching music. All right, that's the future, and that is going to happen. All right,
yeah.
they could be. So the discipline is the most powerful tool to take the nation forward. That is my ask of everybody who's in this call in the nation. This is the time to rate your self-discipline. Thank you. Thanks, Hafiz. Thanks, guys, for this session.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Hafiz, last words?
Right. For me, is the points that I'm trying to take out of this MCO period and this pandemic crisis is that for you to be able to adapt and evolve, adapt to the new situation fast, pick up new skills, like what Dr. Azmi was saying, be disciplined in taking up these new skills and applying it, and evolve yourself, right, to the new economic challenges or new economic realities in the future. And inshallah, you'll be better off and you'll be better prepared for future challenges.
Okay, with that, we conclude our first edition of webinar. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for spending time sharing with us all these thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for the viewers as well for tuning in, and thank you for the questions. We apologize we couldn't answer all of the questions. And for those who actually, didn't catch us from the beginning, not to worry, we will upload this video into our YouTube channel, Singularity Tech Asia. For those who want to know more about IoT, you can always check out our website, Singularity Aerotech Asia, singularityAerotech.asia, and then you can also check out Esperanti's website to understand about Talks Network, right? And we can also follow us on the social media platform on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. You can just search Singularity Aerotech Asia and you will find us there. And again, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. And we hope to be hearing from you again in our next series of webinars. And with that, stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Selamat
you.
berbuka puasa.
Yes,
Selamat
selamat
berbuka
Thank you
berpuasa.
all.
Bye.